One might wonder, why is golf so famous? Is it a luxury sport? To answer that question, people choose golf because it provides an excellent overall solution. What does that even mean, you ask? By that we mean is, golf is just not a sport. It's more than a game that gives you an excellent understanding of self and balance to focus on self in your life. Another reason golf is so popular is that anyone can play it. Unlike sports such as football or basketball, if you like leisure sports, golf doesn't require much athleticism. Because golf does not require any strenuous cardiovascular exercise, it can be enjoyed by children, teens, adults, and even older people. To play golf, one requires proper gear, which includes special gold ball, polo wear, golf shoes, and the most important of all, golf clubs. There are many different types of golf clubs, each for various strokes through the game. A golf club consists of a shaft with a grip and a club head. Ideally, golfs range anywhere between $200 to $1,000. You might now wonder what makes them so expensive. We'll watch the video ahead to find out.
Hey everyone. Welcome back to DSP Factory Made. If you enjoy what you're about to see, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Let's dive in.
History of golf clubs. Golf historians believe that the earliest production of golf clubs began in the 15th and 16th centuries because people found the fragments of club heads left over from the aforementioned era in the Netherlands. To be precise, Scotland is the hometown of golf, and the first woods appeared was nearly in the 15th century. At that time, the wood shaft was solid, the head was heavy, and the grip was wrapped in leather such as lambskin. Whereas the early wooden poles were often made of beechwood, but also applewood, pearwood, and plum trees. While these woods can be used to create club heads, later the Scots imported persimmon trees and persimmon wood from North America, which are dense and not easy to crack. The reason being, they're good materials for making clubs, whereas the persimmon wood is hard and the wood grain is really beautiful. The production of wooden poles is very labor-intensive and requires a drying process and careful material selection process. Although today, hundreds of years later, all wood rods in the original sense are rare. Hence, there's still wood rod production specializing in this craft. To be precise, the manufacture of persimmon wood poles only began in the 1890s. However, earlier the play of golf was like hitting and rolling pebbles with something like a wand with a bent tip. To be precise, this like a cane with a bent tip is said to be the origin of golf clubs. Speaking of the same shape and structure, the shape is more like a hockey stick than the current golf club. These are made of wood and are said to have been made of hardwood from the Oleaceae family, which was the material for tools such as bows in Scotland in the 1400s, as stated already. And then in the late 1600s, the golf club was discovered. It seems to have been found in the wreckage of a Dutch cargo ship. The golf club found there also seems to have a shape similar to a shovel, unlike the current shape. However, there was a metal club head at the end of the wooden shaft. Therefore, golf clubs with metal heads have come to be called irons. At the time, iron clubs were said to have been shaped like a shovel because they were used to scrap balls out of bunkers and swamps. The shift from wooden to metal. It's considered that around 1800, the prototype of the driver, the play club, was invented, and in 1874, the Bulgar driver, which had a bulging center on the wood face, was born. This Bulgar driver has a shape in which a hole is made in the head and a shaft is inserted, and it's said to be the basic form of modern clubs. And then golf became a pandemic in England in the 1880s, and then a boom occurred in the United States. In 1891, a wood club made of persimmon was invented in Scotland, and it seems that the golf boom continued with persimmon head as a mainstream for about 100 years. With the golf boom, many golf courses were built and difficult courses were created, so it was then considered necessary to increase the flight distance. Meanwhile, it was in 1914 that the hard and flexible steel shaft was invented. Unlike the conventional hickory shaft, the steel shaft became a hot topic when the flight distance was too long. Therefore, it's said that the invention of steel shafts was so revolutionary that the use of steel shafts was banned until 1926. Birth of carbon shaft. Since then, the time has come for everyone to use steel shafts, and fewer golfers use wooden shafts. As a result, in 1965, the carbon shaft is born. The carbon shaft is made of carbon fiber and is lighter and easier to twist than steel. Even today, both steel and carbon shafts are constantly evolving and in use. Drivers enter the era of metalheads. However, later in 1979, even drivers who had been popular with wood for a long time entered the era of metalheads. To be precise, the metalhead driver was considered excellent not only in flight distance but also in durability. So it seems that it was an event that could be said to have changed the history of clubheads. The mainstream material was stainless steel, but later titanium, which is lighter and has higher strength. has changed to the mainstream, and the head gradually became bigger and changed to the shape of the current driver. The larger the head, the wider the sweet spot. In other words, because the club is easier to hit and gentler, it's now possible to set an upper limit on the volume of the head. Birth of utility. The utility, which can be said to be an indispensable club today, was invented in the 1980s. It can be said that it's the youngest golf club in history. The utility is a club just halfway between fairwoods and irons. In the days where there was no utility, long irons were originally used, but it was said that it was difficult to handle because the flight distance would drop if you missed a shot even a little. Hence, utilities have come to be used instead. Whereas many drivers have come to use it because they can get a good distance even if they make a slight miss shot. However, recently, the number of golfers who use long irons has decreased considerably, and the use of utilities has become mainstream. Well, let's now shift our focus onto the making of the golf club. Making of golf club. First things first, each golf club manufacturer uses a slightly different manufacturing process. Yes, and it's a natural thing. Whereas the largest companies use highly automated machines, while the smallest companies use hand tools. I hope that was easy to understand so far. However, not to mention specific parts of the manufacturing process may be unique to a company and are considered trade secrets. As a result, the following is a typical operating sequence used to produce machine-made peripheral-weighted golf irons. Grate the head. This process requires nothing but some effort. Precisely, the head is produced in a manner named investment casting. Well, if the shaft is made of steel or stainless steel, it's formed by a process called a drawn tube. The shaft is screwed to the golf club head. While the head is made of metal, the mold is composed of two halves with a cavity whose shape and size are the same as the required club head. Pour the molten wax into the mold cavity and harden it. When the wax is hard, the mold is open for removing the wax pattern. However, this process has to be repeated several times. Several wax molds are attached to a central wax pillar called a sprue to form a tree. And then the tree is dipped into a liquid mixture of powdered ceramic materials, various chemicals and gelling agents, and is left aside unless and until the coating is not dry. And then the same thing is put in a container and next filled with liquid molding slurry to harden it. The next step involves heating. Now the hardened mold is heated in an oven to about 1000 to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit to melt the wax mold. The molten wax flows out from the bottom and any wax residue will evaporate. Not that the mold should be later inverted. Once done, the mixture is poured into the molten metal of the club head into a hot mold and hardened. Whereas when the metal cools, the mold materials falls off the tree and a single casting head is cut from the gates. The parts produced by the investment casting process have an excellent surface finish, and there are no flashes or parting lines that need to be removed. These parts can be made of a variety of metals, and their weight is uniform from one part to another. As a matter of fact, most iron heads are heat-treated to harden the outer surface. The head is heated with flames or induction coils, and then rapidly cooled. This causes the steel near the surface to form a different grain structure, which are harder than the rest of the head. Forming axes. Additionally, if the shaft is made of steel or stainless steel, it's produced by a method named a drawn tube. As a result, pulling a portion of the pipe of the desired length through an opening in the mold that is slightly smaller than the diameter of the pipe will cause the stretched portion of the pipe to narrow in diameter. This process has been repeated several times. Each time the mold diameter becomes slightly smaller, the length of the tube passing through the mold decreases by a few inches. The result is that the diameter of the tube is reduced from approximately 0.50 inches to approximately 0.37 inches, separated by 7 or 8 small steps along the length of the shaft. If the shaft is made of steel, it's chrome-plated after forming. But the process comes with a condition. It's that if the shaft is formed of graphite fiber strengthened composite material, it's produced through a process called pultrusion. Graphite fibers are embedded in epoxy resin and heat hardens the epoxy resin to form a shaft, and then use air or water to cool the shaft and cut it to a certain length. The graphite fiber reinforced shaft has the same diameter along the entire length. Form a club. There are several ways to fix the head to the shaft. For some metal shafts, the shaft is inserted into the socket of the head and a small hole is drilled in the socket and shaft, and then press a small metal pin into the hole and fix it in place with epoxy adhesive. For graphite shafts, the head is bonded to the shaft with an adhesive. For all shaft materials including metal shafts, the second process becomes more and more common. On the other hand, another end of the shaft is installed in a hollow shape, and next a rubber handle is formed around its top part. However, a sticker can then be attached to the shaft to show the manufacturer, brand name, degree of curvature, or other information. The next process is polishing. As a result, now the raised metal part is polished in order to give the club a finished appearance. As a final step, any recessed words or logos on the club head can be painted or painted in other colors. And stickers can now be affixed to the club head for identification or illustration. That's it, guys. Let's know if you found this video informative in the comment section below. Also, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more informative videos. See you in the next video.